Greetings and welcome to this edition of Practical Assertion. I'm thrilled to have you join us this week as we try to make practical applications to subjects that will help you on your journey through life. This week, I would like to use a very familiar saying as the backdrop for our thinking together, and that is, just because it's good to you doesn't mean it's good for you. You've no doubt heard this old saying, and if you are above the age of 15, you're probably well acquainted with its meaning. But allow me to challenge your thinking for just a few minutes to remind you of the profundity, that is, the profoundness of this statement. Have you ever wanted something really badly but couldn't afford to buy it? Do you remember how that thing just kept calling your name until you finally sold your soul to get it? At first, there is this sense of euphoria, which is probably associated with a sense of accomplishment. This was something that you did on your own. Add to that the fact that this was something that you had been dreaming of, and bam, now you have it. But have you ever had that same experience, but when you got the thing, whatever it was, and it ended up causing you trouble? What's interesting about this is that this could apply to a purchase, a person, a place, or a position. Let's look at each of these and make application to prove the old saying. First of all, a purchase. Truth be told, if we are going to spend our money on something, we have already made up in our mind that it will be good to us. Whether it's a pair of shoes, a new suit, ladies, a new purse, a car, those golf clubs, a new video game console, with the games, new games of course, you name it, and we have already convinced ourselves that it or they will be good to us and for us. Then reality sets in. It may not be immediate. In fact, it may not hit you until the bill comes that we realize that this thing really isn't good for us. Perhaps it doesn't fit quite like you thought it would. Maybe it really does make your butt look big. I'm just saying. Maybe those bunions of yours refuse to cooperate with the new shoes. Maybe the insurance was much higher than you calculated on that new car. Or you discovered that the new driver didn't improve your distance on the golf course after all. Possibly, your new game console looks the same or worse because your old monitor couldn't keep up with the graphics. All that said, now you realize that it might have been good to you, but wasn't good for you. For some, purchases are not a challenge because they are disciplined when it comes to spending. Relationships, on the other hand, that's a whole nother can of worms. Ever fantasize about someone knowing that if you could get that person to be your boyfriend or your girlfriend, that life would be paradise? You put your plan together, you got your lines down after listening to some Barry White, Luther, the Commodores, Usher, R. Kelly, or whomever it is. You put on that new suit that we just talked about, you know, the one with the shoes that match, and you laid it on her, and bam, now you've got her. Once again, reality sets in, not right away, of course, because again, that sense of accomplishment is ruling your emotions at this point. But all of a sudden, that booger's true colors come out, and that bam becomes a boom, and you're riddled with shrapnel. Then you come to understand the old saying, just because it's good to you doesn't mean it's good for you. For time's sake, please allow me to group place and position together. Whether it's a new home, apartment, city, town, or a new position on the job, sometimes in our minds, the grass is definitely greener on the other side, right? I had an interesting experience when I was a kid. I was responsible for cutting the grass at home because I didn't have any brothers and I hated doing the dishes, so I made a deal with my dad to take care of the lawn. We had St. Augustine grass and it was wonderful and looked really good after I would mow. I looked across the street at my neighbor's yard and it looked as good as ours did after it was cut. One day, I took a quick trip across the street and happened to look at their grass, and do you know what I discovered? That yard was full of weeds. What's your point, you ask? Well, what I discovered was that it may look greener, but it might not be grass. If you've ever changed positions, either physically, a move, or promotionally, on a job, only to find that the green that was over there was weeds, you too understand the old saying, just because it's good to you doesn't mean it's good for you. It might have come from the fact that your commute to work is a big headache. Perhaps the yard is much larger or plumbing is a pain. Maybe the neighbors are loud and obnoxious. In either case, what you thought was going to be good to you turned out to be not so good for you. If either of these scenarios struck a nerve with you, let me hear from you. Perhaps something that you've experienced will help one of our followers to avoid a bad situation or get out of a bad predicament. Please share your experiences or feel free to ask for direction, and I'll see what I can do to help you. All of our contact information is on your screen, and we'll see you next week for another edition of Practical Assertion. Take care.